First topic, we're going to talk a little bit about multi generational IPs.
Ooh.
Or what does it take for one of these properties, whether it be your favorite TV franchise, movie franchise, book series, whatever IP it is, to survive a multi-generational transition. We don't see a lot of properties that successfully do that. Now we do see some properties that move on to the next generation.
Yeah.
And so that's what kind of
Some
we're
of them even name their series The Next Generation.
yeah, but in that case they still carried over, and we'll talk about that one. They managed to carry over that. So it's when these IPs reach a place, they kind of have a decision to make.
Hmm.
And of course, just with any business, it's cheaper to retain customers than it is to create new customers.
Yep.
You want that off?
Yes, please.
All right, no more fan.
Sorry, it bothers me.
I
Because
know, but it'll
tick,
be
tick,
80
tick,
degrees
tick.
in here by the time we get done. All right, but it is a little loud. So, where was I?
Retain fans, new
Oh,
fans.
it's just with any business, film is no different. It's easier to retain fans than to create new fans. So the way I see it is these properties, these studios or whatever it is, have a decision to make. Do we try to retain the best model is always to retain your customer
Right.
and to build new, because you have to replace,
Right.
because we have expiration dates. So you have to replace if you want your property to stick around. Now some properties have their moment, have their big shining moment in the sun, and then they go away, and the creators are okay with that. They are what they are, and then they go away. And
Mhm.
I think some people actually prefer entertainment, IPs to be that way. I think some people get frustrated with IPs that keep trying to come around, but the way I see it is they reach a point where there's a decision to make on how do we further this. Do we jump in a whole new direction and try to get like take Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for
Mhm.
instance? They definitely went all in on Gen Alpha
Right.
with their latest iteration. Like, my older kids liked it okay. My youngest kid loved it. It was made for him.
Mhm.
As an original Ninja Turtles fan, and someone who can barely understand someone who's Gen Alpha when they speak because they're speaking a foreign language. Uh, it was fun, but it wasn't the same thing.
Mhm.
And so they got a lot of flack. And of course, the people who made it they're just mad because, or they're basically blaming the lack of success on the show because the original fans didn't like it. And it's like, you've got to make a decision. If you're going to make something exclusively for the new fans, then don't get mad at the old fans when they don't like it. Then it's not for them. You intentionally didn't make it for them.
Right.
You can't get mad at them when they don't like it.
Yeah.
But that's what we keep seeing studios do.
Mhm.
But so when we get into this, what are some? I think there are some pretty notable. Well, before we do that, what really kind of got me thinking about this was the fact that the MCU started in 2008 with Iron Man.
Mhm. See, here we got married for
The
reference.
people, the kids that were, the kids that there are 16 and maybe some 17-year-olds who weren't alive when that movie was made, when the MCU started. So first of all, what the MCU has done is just mind blowing.
Yeah,
Like
unprecedented.
there's no other franchise that's ever come close to pulling off what they've done.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to figure out the model. Everybody's trying to emulate it, and
And has been for 15
well, the
years
thing
now.
is like the MCU was launched with such high quality films,
Mhm.
especially that first Iron Man movie, which
Mhm.
still holds up as one of the best of the bunch. some of these others rushed to try to emulate without actually looking to see that the success was in a well-made movie.
Right. When they didn't launch the MCU, they launched an Iron Man movie.
So basically, Iron Man's if most people are going to know this, but it's pre-Disney. Like they made the first two movies, Marvel did, and basically they put all the hopes and dreams of what was left of Marvel into making that Iron Man movie.
Which was,
that could have been the end of the studio.
Bringing Jon Favreau in to direct Robert Downey Jr., wasn't guaranteed to be a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Turned out it was. But
and they didn't want, a lot of things had to fall in place. They didn't want Robert Downey Jr.
Right. He was
Jon Favreau wanted Robert Downey Jr.
He was a risk.
Well, he was a risk, but that's a funny thing. Like when studios leave Jon Favreau alone and let him make a movie, they get like the studio, the actors. Will Ferrell famously hated Elf. They all thought it was going to be the worst thing ever made, but Jon Favreau had a vision, and it became an instant Christmas classic.
He knows how to make a movie.
Yeah, so I am excited that he's making a Star Wars film. Hopefully that's gonna do well.
The Mandalorian has been some of the best stuff that has come out of the Disney Star Wars era.
It has. I think it's some of the most well balanced. It's certainly one of the top. I think the three top projects, and I think you'd have a hard time reasonably arguing that Andor, Skeleton Crew, and the Mandalorian aren't the best three things that they've created for Disney Plus for Star Wars. The others have all been different levels of problematic. Even the ones that are good aren't great. I think I enjoyed the Ahsoka series, but it was also made by, I think that some of the growing pains for Dave Filoni in moving into live action are apparent.
Let's hang on just 1 second. I'm going to call the children and tell them to keep it down in the other room. First world problems, love.
Making a phone call during the live stream.
I am. A phone call to the next room. Let's see if they actually answer it. Can you hear them?
They're not going to answer it because they're screaming.
All right. Well, I thought that they were, in my defense, I thought that they were listening to music on the phone that was going to be ringing, but apparently not.
No, but I'll be back because
they're having a lot of fun. I'm not sure what it is they're jamming out to. I'm not sure what it is they're jamming out to in there, y'all. But it's happening. A little less noise there. It's all good. So there's in the Peter Pan musical, the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, the father comes in and says, "A little less noise there, a little less noise." Like I feel like that's like the mantra of every parent. A little less noise there, friends.
They can have their fun when we get done. But I'm sure they were coming through the mics.
I'm sure they were. They were having a grand dandy time in there.
One day, nobody listening to this cares, but when I'm not home and the kids are here alone, if I can't get them on their phone, I'll call them on the Amazon devices.
Yeah.
Well, the Amazon device has a feature where you can just drop in. You don't have to call and someone answer. You just activate it. You can hear. And I kept trying to call them. I was starting to get worried. I was at work. I was 30 minutes away from the house. And I was like, what's going on? So I dropped in and I could hear them all singing at the top of their lungs in the other room. And I was like, okay, so they clearly just can't hear the phone. I was like, I guess this is what goes on when I'm not there. But
there are worse things that could go on when you're not there than everybody jamming out to Hamilton in the next room.
Right. But really, so getting back into kind of the Marvel part of this discussion is these kids, they're 16 and 17-year-olds. So, it's this I think the MCU, because of what it is, there's just certain types of stories that appeal across generations.
Mm-hmm.
It's why Star Wars works, and I think Star Wars is going to be the best example of what we talk about today.
Yeah.
But it tells such a ingrained story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the struggle of good versus evil, and it's one of the reasons that I think it's so tragic and somewhat disturbing how much people are trying to shove that good versus evil story out of storytelling,
Yeah.
because it's so like ingrained in who we are
Right, for sure.
as humans. And it's why ultimately I don't think, well, I think it's why it's not being successful.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of the reasons movies are failing is because you're telling a story that doesn't appeal on a basic level.
Mm-hmm. It really it appeals to a philosophy, but not to
A highly flawed philosophy.
yeah.
I mean, that's the whole problem with with the philosophy that comes out of postmodernism, is that you can't, where you say there's, you know, morality is all subjective. You can't live that.
Right.
You literally can't maintain that. Eventually, you have to make a truth claim, and as soon as you make a truth claim, your whole worldview, poof, gone. So that I think that's had a negative effect. I mean, we've seen it with the Acolyte a little bit, and Ironheart lately, where we've seen two of the IPs we're talking about making that mistake. But then you see other projects like Skeleton Crew in Star Wars that really defaulted to those core values that George Lucas based Star Wars on. And unfortunately, I don't know that the show did very well numbers wise, but at this point where things aren't doing well, we've said it on here a dozen times at this point, Disney has burned up all its goodwill. Star Wars cannot come back to where it used to be without a highly successful movie. TV shows aren't going to do it.
Yeah. But back on the subject of kind of inserting your philosophy into entertainment, even if it's not, it doesn't have to be postmodernism. It doesn't have to be a philosophy that's inherently flawed necessarily, but a lot of times it's sort of like things that get thrown around in philosophical circles, the kind of conversations that people are having, they may be applicable to like that moment, but they do not continue to have relevance going forward. Like there have been a lot of times that I've gone back to read something, either fiction or nonfiction. There's been a lot of Tolstoy, for example. There are a lot of conversations about the sort of things that were happening in Russia at the time the books were being written. A lot of philosophy, a lot of politics that I just don't have a reference for because it's not part of my it doesn't continue to resonate. There are things about his stories that continue to resonate, but a lot of it really falls by the wayside. And there's a reason I think that adaptions of those stories do well, but very few people have read Anna Karenina or War and Peace because they're so hard to get through, because they're so inundated with philosophical points that were very specific to that moment but are no longer relevant conversations. And I think that whenever you tell stories that not just the points going on, not just the conversations, but the entire story is just based in today's philosophy, I think that they tend to have a very short-lived
I agree.
relevance.
I mean, that's why things like the original Star Wars movies have been so successful over time, is they're telling an age-old story cloaked in this new kind of storytelling. But it's the story same, and a lot of the MCU tells that same story in a lot of ways, at least the core of it. And it's why when I see things like Andy Serkis making Animal Farm, I go, okay, Andy Serkis, brilliant director, smart dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but what story is he going to tell? Because this is a story that exists in a moment. And I think a lot of people fail to understand. They think, oh, it's an anti-communist story. Well, he was a communist. He just wasn't a Lenin. He was an anti-Leninist.
Right.
So the guy's a self-avowed socialist.
Right.
And he's writing about totalitarianism.
Mm-hmm.
He was a believer that you could create this utopian socialist society.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't understand that what he was railing about is just what his belief system will always lead to.
And that's the thing. Sometimes people don't, they're like, oh, this thing. It's like, right, but this is the logical conclusion. You know, if this is true, then this is true.
Mhm.
Ergo, this leads to this. Like, that's how it works.
Yeah. So, we're watching, it'll be curious. I'm curious to see what he does with it.
Mm-hmm.
He's old enough to have a good understanding of where that came from, but he could also just tell, like, depending on what his understanding of the story is, he could really tell a really flawed version. If you run that story through modern politics, it's going to be a mess.
Right.
Because it's really nothing more than an anti-totalitarian story. That's it.
Right.
It's about people taking advantage of other people.
Mm-hmm. And the sort of people that people listen to.
Right.
And honestly, anytime the voices say, that not only have we been misused, but that they deserve to be destroyed, then that's the beginning of the end of decency. It just is.
Yeah. So backing up to where we went on this rabbit trail. So Marvel.
Okay.
So Marvel has really come about with a multi-generational following
Mm-hmm.
because of what it is, the kind of stories it tells, being mostly family friendly. At least up till recently, it was very family friendly. And
Mm-hmm.
we've obviously taken some steps outside of that with things like Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's fine. I don't want them to go tell really critical stories
Mm-hmm.
over there. Like, there's going to be some kids that are going to be confused when certain characters show up in this next Avengers film, probably
Mm-hmm.
because they're not going to have the foundation. And I mean, my oldest is 15, and I hadn't let any of them watch Deadpool and Wolverine. And probably still a couple years from doing that.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
So, but what we're coming up on is the kids who were born in the MCU era are just a few years away now from starting to have kids of their own.
Right.
So in 10 years, they will be trying to pass on their beloved IPs to their children the same way that we always do, that we all do. And so kind of so that got me thinking. And I think the MCU, especially the first 10 years of it, make that jump real easily.
Yeah.
I do. Now, some of it may, some of it may not. But I think as a whole, that it's an easy one to carry over. But I was thinking, what are some other properties that have done this? And like, where is the success in doing it? Is it just in the type of story you tell? Because I mean, obviously we've identified that especially very politically themed things have a moment in relevance. They may not carry. Now they may take on new forms for another generation as far as taking different lessons or filtering that lesson through a different lens. They're rebooting Starship Troopers.
Hmm.
That's one that the first movie really didn't follow the story the book was trying to tell at all.
Hmm.
Curious to see what they do with this next
Yeah.
variation.
And the kids will be reading Starship Troopers. I'll probably read it along with them. It'll be interesting to read that right before the movie comes out.
Yeah.
One IP that is kind of surprising to me, that basically has managed to do exactly the same thing for like 25 years and still, make enough money to keep making new seasons is Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Power Rangers is doing the same exact dadgum thing that it did in the 90s. And you watch the new Power Rangers shows, I mean, the graphics are a little better. But it's the same. It's the same. Like
It's
whenever our
it's
kids
just
were watching it, and I was like, how is this still a thing? But
because simplicity.
it's simple, and it's a story that engages. It does. Kids love it.
Mhm.
I mean, and there's just no two ways about it.
It's a simple vehicle for morality stories,
Hmm.
which, believe it or not, appeals to kids.
Hmm. Kids like people, good, the bad people to
Get what's coming
get
to
what's
them.
coming to them, and for the good people to win.
Hmm.
I mean, and honestly, if you look at most entertainment for young children, that's really how it
Yeah.
goes. Um,
But you can tell simple stories about morality, friendship, fighting against against the bad guy, standing up for what you believe in. You can tell all those really simple stories in something like Power Rangers, and even though they're telling the same
mhm,
thing over and over and over again, now I don't know what their audience retention is, at what point it becomes. I mean, I know there's people that are like look back fondly on it,
mhm,
but I don't know how many people there are that are still like, you know, I was a little on the upper edge there age wise, but like my brother loved Power Rangers.
mhm.
He's 30, like
37,
37 now.
38. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's my age.
Like he's not going back and watching Power Rangers,
Right.
but he loved and still loves Power Rangers. So, like, I don't know what their audience retention is, or if
Mhm,
it's just something that you age out of, but it's something that's so, it's sort of elegant in its simplicity that it just keeps appealing
mhm.
time over time over time to each generation that just comes up with kind of their own version of Power
Yeah.
Rangers.
Oh, this Power Rangers is dino themed. This one is, cool car themed. And,
Yeah.
every once in a while we have a big, event where all the original Power Rangers come
Well,
back.
that's the other thing with something like Power Rangers. That's also the brilliance of the marketing of, not only can I watch it, but then I can go get toys of all the things that I just watched on TV. And of course, there's a lot more things that are like that now. But back in the early days of that, of course, it was following the marketing strategy of things like GI Joe and Transformers, that were shows made to sell toys.
Right.
I mean, that's ultimately what. And so, but it is this thing for especially young boys, that
Mhm.
I can watch this and then I can go get
That
that
Transformer.
Transformer, that
Yeah.
GI Joe, that
And you were
you
kind
know
of on the young end for that stuff, weren't you?
Transformers.
Mhm.
Oh, I was just the right age
You were just
for
right, because I know Kevin was
Transformers.
really into Transformers, and he's a little about 5 years older than you, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably on the, kind of young when it started, but I
Yeah.
mean, like it wasn't, it existed for, that was a
Yeah.
big thing for a while.
Yeah, yeah. I remember Transformers, vaguely. They weren't as big of a thing whenever I was a kid, but they were definitely still around. Well, speaking of, though, um, IPs that have managed to retain their old fans and also garner new, Transformers, man.
Mhm.
Transformers has done a remarkable job. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I tapped out at like Transformers 4. I was like, okay, that was fun.
Well, they just got progressively worse.
But they're still making money.
Well, they did that. They do. They're kind of like the Jurassic Park movies, even though a lot of people are saying that this most recent one's, not very good. It still made a lot of money.
Mhm.
And it's just, dinosaurs make money.
Yeah. But Transformers was a remarkable one because they really managed to capitalize on new fans and old fans.
Hmm.
It was like, we have a new Transformers movie, and
Yeah.
guess what? We have a new cartoon to really hook your kids, but also we're going to play into all the nostalgia of their parents.
Right.
And
And that's of course that's the beauty of, jumping in with um doing a live action movie.
Mhm.
And if it's just a new Transformers TV, cartoon,
Mhm.
like maybe I'll watch it with the kids, but like if I'm not watching it with the kids, I probably don't ever get around to watching it.
Mhm.
But doing a movie, now of course, they're about to make this jump with Voltron.
Mhm.
And so this is going to be an interesting experiment. They did the Voltron Legendary Defender
Mhm.
show recently, or it's been a
Right.
few years
Yeah.
now, but that's one I watched with my kids, but it was a really well done show that I probably would have watched even without the kids.
Mhm.
It was very good. They kind of did a few things right there at the end where they kind of bowed to some of the weirder fan pressure on
Mhm.
them. That kind of put a few people off, but it was so little and so late in the process that I'm not going to let it ruin the show
Yeah.
because it was a very good show.
It was a very good show, yeah.
And so we've got this movie that they're being super secretive about. Henry Cavill is in it. I'm not sure who else, but I don't know a lot of the people in it. But
Mhm.
Henry Cavill is going to be one of the leads, but they're being so secretive. We don't even know who's playing who yet.
Yeah.
We have a cast list. We don't know who anybody is.
We don't have a character list, so we don't even know like exactly which version they're going with, or if they're doing something totally
They could be
different.
Right.
So yeah, it seems like a really good formula for audience retention is to basically do a grown-up version of the things, but that still can be that you can share with your kids. Because they've done some things that are like, oh, we're doing a grown-up version of this. It's like, well, like a Cobra Kai,
Mm-hmm.
for example. Excellent show, not something you're going to go watch with your 10-year-old.
Right.
And in some ways I feel like they may have missed, a potential growth opportunity there. But it did bring Karate Kid back to the forefront and did, I think, enable a new movie.
Right. And I'm sure it's not going to end with this movie. I think
How did
that
it do?
I'm not really sure. I mean, it moved to the streaming platforms pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% sure. And that's a little bit on, um, it's not hard. I mean, people love Cobra Kai. People are rabid over Cobra Kai and for good reason. It's a very good show.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's also real easy. People were pretty sour and rightfully so on that Jackie Chan reboot a few years ago. Now they're kind of trying to bring these worlds together, but like, the first thing you do is go, oh, it's as much as people love Jackie Chan, you go, oh, we're doing this. Like, I think it brings back that sour.
Mm-hmm. Although it's that the kid who the kid that they brought in seems to be really excellent.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna look up. Let's see. Karate Kid looks like it made $106 million with a budget of 45 million, which means it probably broke even if they're lucky.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do the math on it, but with the theaters taking their cut, the advertising budget, and all that, I suspect now. as long as it didn't lose the house, then there's still room to come back. The
Yeah.
smarter thing to have done would have probably been to have involved some of the kids from Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
I think if you involve some of the kids from Cobra Kai in this story in some way, it probably blows up beyond what they did.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe next round.
But again, that's an IP that has been brought forward to a new generation.
Mm-hmm.
The new generation loves the Cobra Kai stuff, and it's still something that the original fans can love, because they didn't just tell this new story with all these kids. They brought back Johnny and Daniel.
Who knew that Williams Zabka was
Look, I'm gonna be
so
honest
talented
with you. William Zabka is a way better actor than I think anybody realized he was.
Yeah. Except for Barney and How I Met Your Mother. He always knew.
Well, he always knew that he was the real Karate Kid.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be surprised if we see William Zabka actually show up in some other stuff now.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him pop up in some of our more major franchises at this point.
Yeah.
Because, like, honestly, like, I would have never imagined, because he did so little. He's been in stuff, and it's not like he's never done anything, but like, he was never like this superstar A-lister or anything. So, yeah, I'm shocked because he's got great emotional range.
It's kind of the moment that several kind of underrated or actors who kind of fell off the map or were underrated at the time. It's kind of that are having a renaissance. It's, you're seeing all of a sudden, Brendan Fraser, who nobody thought that he wasn't talented. He was the biggest thing in the world there for a minute, but then he just sort of poof, just totally disappeared, and he's sort of been discovered, rediscovered. I feel like William Zabka and Ralph Macchio both sort of, like have made a reappearance. Short Round.
Ke Huy Quan.
Yes. So I feel like it's kind of been a moment where some people, I think, maybe are finally getting a little more credit that they deserve, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, for sure. So, it'll be interesting to see where those guys pop up in the future. But like, again, that's one that I think fits the bill of what we're talking about. Like, how do you make the jump? So what are some others? Like, I mean, Star Wars is the one that comes to mind. It's like a rite of passage to introduce your kids.
The amazing thing about Star Wars is there was no, like, you can see like a catalyst for some of these things. Okay, so for Transformers, right? We have a live action movie. For Karate Kid, we have a Cobra Kai series. We have, a lot of times there is no like moment whenever people sort of remember Star Wars. Like, Star Wars is one of those things that, like, and I think a lot of people were reintroduced to Star Wars. I think there was a bit of a catalyst moment there when the prequels came out, but like,
oh, for sure. Well, I think the catalyst moment was actually in the few years leading up when they re-released everything in the theater.
Yeah.
So you had like, people our age that got to go see it. I'm assuming did you see any of them in the theater?
I saw all of them in the theater, but I had seen them all previously.
Right. But there's still something something special
sure
about seeing a movie like that on the big screen for the first time.
And I was thinking about, do you remember whenever David first went and saw Star Trek, the motion picture, in the theater with his dad for a Fathom event? And I think that some of these like Fathom events that they have, are going to be an interesting medium for kind of preserving some of that, because you have the opportunity to sit down and watch something in a theater.
Yeah.
But I feel like The Princess Bride and Star Wars are two of those things that people just introduce to their kids because they can still enjoy them as adults, but their kids can also appreciate them as children.
Yeah.
And there are so few things that have that magical combination.
Yeah. I think fantasy, and
Mhm.
for the people that are going to get irritated with me, yes, Star Wars is a fantasy, not a sci-fi. When the writer says, I didn't really worry about the science of all way all this worked, I just let that sort itself out. It's
Yeah.
not sci-fi.
Yeah. But I feel like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars,
fantasy can really invoke a lot of the same. Really, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of things like Lord of the Rings, and Lord of the Rings intentionally so, invoke sort of a spirituality around it. It just at least invokes similar feelings to where it's more people that really love Lord of the Rings really love Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And for good reason. It's a special. The books are incredibly special, and we've had a number of iterations, animated, live action, otherwise. They're not. There's no perfect adaptation of it. The movies still remain one of the two greatest movie trilogies ever made. Even though they're not perfect. Things like Rings of Power, are they perfect? No, not by any stretch. But they're having, like
I do love me some. I know that a lot of people just don't like it, but I love Rings of Power.
I think this is what we're talking about, is the people that get really upset with things like Rings of Power. I don't think Rings of Power's done any thing unforgivable.
No.
Have they made some moves that I wouldn't have made? Sure. But it's not taking away the books. It's not ruining the books. It's not ruining the Peter Jackson movies, which changed a lot of important stuff, by the way, if you've forgotten.
Yeah.
Some people say they're ruining Tolkien, and it's like, because they changed this. And I'm like, how much? And then act like Peter Jackson created this perfect adaptation.
Here's the thing, though. Most of them are my age or younger, and really got into Lord of the Rings because of the movies.
Yeah.
And if you got into Lord of the Rings because of the movies, and then you go back and read the books, it's different than if you fell in love with the books. And which is why I think a lot of people are having so many issues with Rings of Power, where they were a lot more forgiving of.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing is I remember a lot of people really hating the Lord of the Rings trilogy when it first came out.
Yeah.
And the truth is,
none of my people, we all thought it was great.
And the truth is, Tolkien probably would have hated it.
I think he was kind of a curmudgeon.
I think he got more curmudgeon-y as time went on, as people do. But
I think he was always kind of a curmudgeon.
I mean, Christopher didn't like the movies.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. But I think what I'm getting at is that it's these certain things like Lord of the Rings are sort of sacred to people. And so I think sometimes when you go to make something like that and you start getting some pushback, I think that's a good thing, because I think that speaks to a community that cares.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to hear people. I'm fine with Rings of Power. It's not exactly what I wanted it to be, but I think that it does a pretty good job. Honestly, because you have to admit, it's filling in gaps that, they're just, there's not a complete story there to tell. And the time compression, of course, leads to problems in the storytelling. But
yeah,
again, if nobody's pushing back on you making something like that, then the community doesn't care.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's a good thing that there are at least some people. I mean, some people go totally overboard with it. And of course, it was one that was just ripe for the anger farming.
Yeah.
rage bait YouTube.
Here's the thing though, so much. It's so hard to decide how much people actually genuinely dislike something and how much is just like the rage bots. Okay, I have to say, the monkey rage bots on Superman were like the greatest thing. Just sitting there.
I still don't understand why the monkeys know how to use the computers.
They had it piped into their brains.
Mm.
I mean, that's exactly how I envision like these people just sitting there, like dumb little monkeys just sitting there.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We live in an era where the algorithms have rewarded rage farming.
They really have. I mean,
and that's where it is. And so you have to go and you have to seek out, people that either mirror your opinions or that, are honest. And sometimes that's hard to find. It's hard to weed out what's what.
Yeah.
Because I've said it often, there are a lot of people that get accused of rage farming that actually agree with a tremendous amount of what they say, just not how they say it.
Yeah. So I'm just like I may agree with the gist of what you're saying, but you're so mean. Like I also don't like The Last Jedi, but
Here's the thing.
Why?
We spend a lot of time
so
on this channel giving our opinions through a Christian worldview.
Yeah.
And pointedly so. We don't hide that. Like, we'll tell you that that's what we're doing. And I can't sit here and say horrible things
about people.
Mm-hmm. And then a few minutes later tell you, and this is how I feel about this as a Christian. Like, the two don't mix. And so, that's why we try to do what we do here. I'm going to tell you if I don't like something. And if an actor does something that I don't like, I'm going to tell you I don't like it, but I'm going to try to do that while remembering that they're also image bearers and not, try to just tear them to pieces while doing so. But anyway, what before we wrap up, because I have to go back to work. So what are some other things that jump out at you? I mean, we have the Lord of the Rings is a cool one because it has transitioned across different mediums to remain one of the top selling books in the world. In fact, you often see newer artists that aren't really willing to recognize just simple economics that throw a hissy fit about the amount of shelf space that Tolkien still takes up in the bookstore, because I want my book there. Why is Tolkien there? That stuff came out forever ago. And it's like, because it still sells more than your stuff.
It's still better than your stuff.
Yeah.
It's better than anything I've ever written.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, but the Tolkien stuff is special in that way. I mean, we saw a little glimpse of Chronicles of Narnia. Chronicles of Narnia is one that I think, not that they're making new stuff, and I mostly want to talk about things that are continuing to make new stuff. Now, I think, we're in for a real disaster.
Maybe not. Maybe it'll be great. Ever the optimist.
All of the stars have aligned for Narnia to basically be the antithesis of what Lewis wrote.
It's going to be perfect. It's going to be great, love. We're being optimistic. Well, it's not how he rolls.
No, I have no problem being optimistic. I think
you have no problem being optimistic.
Not with a lot of things, but this is. I mean, they've done everything that has been said. All of the decisions that have been made as far as who's writing, directing, and all this are simply not the right decisions.
And I have seen Greta Gerwig say some, well,
she was raised Universalist.
Yeah, but she seemed like, I've seen her say some things that, seem like she at least intends to embrace the maybe not. maybe
look,
not what I would consider necessarily a Christian message, but at least at
well,
least a universalist version of.
I will remind everyone when they made the first movie, The Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe, back however long ago they made that now, they sort of accidentally made it a Christian film because they didn't really even recognize, I don't think, what they were doing.
No, Andrew Adamson was like not a Christian story. And so we were all like,
well,
it's a good
I just
movie.
it's wild to me when you encounter people that tell you that the books weren't Christian. I'm like, do you know who C.S. Lewis was?
The most famous lay theologian of the century, maybe the most famous theologian of the century, outside of, particular groups, but in just the most widely read theologian of the century.
Oh, 100%. Like, no
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Mere Christianity, like one of the most important Christian works of the 20th century for sure.
Mm-hmm. So, the same people say that the same thing about Lord of the Rings, even though you have Tolkien over here saying it's an inherently Catholic work. It's like,
yeah,
okay.
Not just a Christian work, a Catholic work.
Now, of course, I know there's bound to be somebody that's going to go Catholics, blah, 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 not Christian, whatever, bite me.
I'm sorry, but that's an ignorant thing to say. Like, are all Christians individually part of the spiritual church? No, but neither are all Baptists or anybody else. But like, to say that Catholics have not been the identity of Christianity for a very long time, I mean, albeit imperfect, really imperfect sometimes, really despicable sometimes, but still to say that, like, that's not Christianity, it's it's not well informed.
It's disingenuous at best.
Yeah. It's either disingenuous or very ill-informed.
Yeah. But so as we wrap up here, though, like, can you think of any others? Like, what about Star Trek?
Ooh, Star Trek's a good one because Star Trek manages to continue to reinvent itself, sometimes better than others. Now, Star Trek, I think, was a really notable one, especially the Star Trek movie in 2009, that I think garnered a lot of new fans, but a lot of the original fans really hated it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. I thought,
thing is, I know a lot of original fans that loved it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I think some people just that's just the reaction to change.
Yeah, I think so. But
we have our things that we're very comfortable with and that we love and we find them comforting. And then when someone messes with it, it disrupts.
Yeah.
It disrupts our I guess disrupts our comfort. But
yeah. But Star Trek has managed, like, there are a lot of Star Trek fans. I mean, there's Star Trek fans my grandparents' age. There were a lot of Star Trek fans like our parents' age. I think they were like the Star Trek generation.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know a lot of people my age who are Star Trek fans. Now, granted, like, I was homeschooled, and so a special kind of nerd. But there are definitely a lot of, and the funny thing is, most of the Star Trek fans who are my age are not particularly fans of, like, Enterprise. Most people didn't love Enterprise.
I think most people just in general didn't love Enterprise.
But a lot of people who were even Next Generation, though, was one that a lot of people watched with their kids.
Yeah.
And so
I think Enterprise is a good example. Like, that was my dad's Star Trek was Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
And I love the originals, and I used to occasionally watch them with him, but I didn't really become just a full-on Star Trek fan until Next Generation, because I was at the right age to So, I mean, it was all a lot of it was out by the time I was in college. I mean, I was watching it in high school, but like when I was in college, like pretty much about the time I came in every day, there were Star Trek reruns on. And so I
Mhm.
watched Next Generation almost every day while I came in and fixed dinner.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that there aren't, and I think this is becoming a bigger and bigger of a dearth in entertainment, is shows that parents can watch with their kids.
Yeah.
And I think that Star Trek: The Next Generation was one of those things in the 90s that was really important that way. The 80s, I guess, and the 90s. But I think that is an important part of that's another important way to retain fans
Yeah.
is by having things that not only do parent like things like Star Wars where parents introduce it to their kids, but as it comes on, it's something that adults are interested in and are interested in doing with their kids.
Yeah. So, kind of in conclusion, I guess my point of view on this is it's not impossible. I think there are things that can sort of exist on their own and they can just kind of be found by multiple generations.
Mhm.
But it seems to me that the things that really truly stand the test of time are the things that are both things that you can't wait to share with your kids
Mhm.
and things that are appropriate for sharing with your kids,
Mhm.
because that's what, and I think that's what we're losing in entertainment is
Yeah.
that the dividing line between, like, the PG-13th and the R is really, they're really widening out. In fact, I feel like the PG-13 thing like has almost just, like, we don't really do that. It's either PG or it's way out here.
And I feel like honestly that's one of the reasons that superhero movies have continued to do well is because they are one of the few things in that niche where they're interesting enough for adults but still innocent enough for children.
Yeah.
Because those things that you can go, that aren't going to see, the newest Pixar movie with your kid. Like that's its own thing. But going to see something that you're going to see for your own sake, but you can also take your kids with you. It's there's less and less of it all the time.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, we're in danger of, like, so even within the superhero genre, like, we've seen Marvel over the last few years make a few steps that, like, if it's something like Daredevil, that's just going to be kind of violent, Punisher, violent, or something like Deadpool and Wolverine, that's very honest about what it is,
Mhm.
fine. Like, I think those things have a
But
place.
if you're going to be the Eternals and be sneaky about it, parents are going to be unhappy.
Yes. If you're going to be sneaky about it, the Ironheart,
Yeah.
so when you start trying to sneak these things in there,
Mhm.
then yeah, people are going to get it. It's the same thing. It's the problem with the Star Wars novels.
Yeah.
Iana used to be, our oldest, used to be very into reading my Star Wars novels. And I'll just pull, I won't even question it. If she asks me for one of my expanded universe books, I pull it off the shelf and hand it to her. I don't even have to think about it.
Mhm.
But when we started reading the newer stuff, I literally had to start reading those books before I could hand them off to my child to read.
Even some of the like young adult books,
The
like
the young adult books were actually the worst offenders.
mhm.
The adult book, the adult novels don't really get into the wickedness and some of the other stuff that,
Yeah, but it was even some of it was sexual content
well, that's what I'm
that I was
talking
like,
about.
why
Like,
are we why do we have to have this in a
I don't
Padme
need, well,
novel?
that's the thing, is I don't need that in any Star Wars novel.
I don't need it in any novel, period.
Right. I mean, I'm not reading. If somebody wants to read that stuff, fine, whatever.
Yeah,
Like, not for me, but like, I don't need it in a Star Wars book ever.
yeah.
But the young adult, like, tell me, it's very obvious what you're doing when you start putting that stuff in the young adult books. And the young adult books were the worst of the worst. And that's why it was so, basically bringing in, people who wrote fan fiction to write Star Wars books instead of bringing back the quality writers that we used to have. And I'm not even saying you've got to go get Kevin J. Anderson to write a Star Wars novel, but go get somebody that's like the next Kevin J. Anderson. Like, you know, we used to have very, very good writers writing Star Wars books. It's what saved Star Wars. For a little over a decade, is what maintained the fandom. And honestly, if not for the success of things like Heir to the Empire, I don't know if George ever creates those prequel movies.
Yeah.
Because that was a rabid reading base. And if you look at the numbers, especially like the most recent, like Star Wars publishing has been in a nosedive.
Did you see there's an Acolyte novel? It showed up on my Audible. Audible thinks I'm interested.
Gross.
Like, all right.
The Star Wars publishing's been in a free fall basically since Disney took it over. But the High Republic stuff just went off a cliff, just nosedived. Like, and it was bad. Like, I tried reading them. They're just bad books.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I'll read, like, I used to love reading the Halo novels. The Halo novels were great stories, but like you couldn't get every 10 pages, you'd go, wow, that's a really, really bad grammar problem. Like, how did this get through editing? Like, you would seriously read those books and wonder if the editor had actually read them.
Yeah.
So the stories were just so bad in a lot of those High Republic books.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, to say, you know, when you start making these, they can't be enjoyed. I honestly, I think when you take away a parent's ability to share something with their children, that I'm not saying you're killing your IP.
You're not helping it.
But you're not helping it.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think I pretty much said my piece.
All right. Well, thank you for hanging out with us today here on the Science Fictionary podcast. We will be back soon. Check out all of our content here on the YouTube channel. Hit that like button, subscribe button, hit that notification bell to find out next time we go live, so that you can hang out here with us in the chat like nobody did today. I guess that's what happens when you stream at 2:30 in the afternoon on a Wednesday. I guess people have jobs or something. I don't know. But
I guess.
Anyway, there's lots of content going up pretty much every day on the YouTube channel right now.
Yep. We'll be getting audio podcasts
coming,
probably Friday.
And there's actually brand new content on the audio show as well. Although if you go the same right now, all of the audio content on the podcatchers is just recaptures from the YouTube channel. So if you'd rather watch it here, but if you don't have time to watch and want to listen, you can find it all over there on your favorite podcatcher. But that's going to do it for today. Until next time, may the Force.